Coming up on episode 147 of Creative Writing, I'm talking about how to cut down on your business expenses. Exciting stuff.
I can't go back to sleep, it's almost light. These restless thoughts have kept me up again tonight.
Hey, and welcome to Creative Writing. This is the podcast for you, a writer, blogger, or creative who wants to build an online platform without being smarmy. And I'm your host, Kirsten Oliphant. Welcome to 2019. Here we are. We're a couple weeks in, and what day is it? It's the 10th. So almost a couple of weeks in. Not so good with the dates. I asked someone yesterday if it was February. So that's where I'm at in life. We had holidays, and then we have sick kids. And since we have 5 of them, they don't get it at the same time. Unless it's the stomach flu, then everyone has it at the same time. But when it's something else, they get it one by one. So we have had sickness in our home for like a year. All year, I can say that. We've had sickness in our house all year. So we're just getting over that. And I'm settling into 2019. I'm happy to be back at the podcast. Although I'll say every time I take time off, I'm like, do I really need to go back? Not because I don't enjoy it, but just because of the extra time that I have for other things. So I am glad to be here. And we are going to talk about something kind of gross. For me, it's gross. I hate like the money aspect of things unless it's just like looking at how much I'm making. And then it's like, this is amazing. Not how much I'm spending, not how much money it took to get there, just the money coming in. That's the best part. So we're going to not look at that. We're going to look at the ways you can trim things down. But actually, this is really fun because even if it's not something I like to do, it is the nicest feeling, and I've been doing this all week, to cancel things that you are no longer going to pay for. So I'm going to share some of the things I am cutting out and give you some great questions to ask if you are trying to figure out what you need to cut out, and give you some tips on how to find those things. So let's go ahead into that. Now, before we do, if you want to get to the show notes, you can go to creativewriting.com/147, where you will see what I'm saying in visual form. It's not a transcript. I do it like a blog post. And so you can find that there. I'm also going to link in there to something I did last year called the Digital Detox. And it's basically like 1 week with an actionable item a day to help you do things kind of like what I'm talking about here, cutting things down, straightening out your inbox a bit, getting rid of some of the digital clutter on your computer to kind of free you up to start 2019. Because I always feel like in January, I have all this housekeeping stuff to do because I don't do it in December, because in December, it's like one giant blur of all kinds of stuff. So if you want to do that as well, it's creativewriting.com/detox. And I will link to that in the show notes as well. But that's kind of a nice complement to this episode. And I may do some more episodes on kind of planning and housekeeping type of stuff. So for the money, I thought this was a really good place to start, even though I may later talk about goals, and goals come into play here. But this is a great place to start because as we begin 2019 and I'm looking at budget stuff, which also I hate, and I think I'm going to hire out this year. Woohoo! We've reached the pinnacle of things when you're hiring out your finance stuff that you hate. But there are some things that I can do because I'm a big girl and I can do them. So here we go. Let's talk about these things. And I hope that this helps you as well, because one of the big things I talk about a lot and I kind of harp on is the idea of ROI, which if you don't know this term, it's return on investment. So basically, are you actually getting something out of what you're paying for? And so if something is not bringing an ROI to your business, and you know, if you're a creative person, you may sort of balk at the idea of calling this a business. I'm going to call it a business because I want to make money. Now, we all may want to make money. Maybe we only may want to make a little. Maybe we're all around the range. So just if you hate that term business and it makes you cringe, just ignore it. And every time I say that, think your creative work. And that's a nicer term. But I'm just going to be straight up because in a lot of ways, this is like a businessy type of thing to do. And it's important to do. And we're adults, so we can handle that. So I don't like the term business. I'm using it anyway. Okay, so when we get into this business stuff, it's really helpful to do this and very freeing, and we should do it. And we should make sure that these things that we are paying for have ROI. They return something to us. And it's not just monetary all the time. So I'll talk about that as well. So let's start with how to find out what you're paying for, because this is where we get down to really looking. And this was I don't even want to talk about this because I realized some stuff I've been paying for like a year that was like expensive and I had no idea. No idea. So you have to start here. You have to figure out what you're paying for and make a big list. And so if you're not sure how to do that, because for me, I'm paying for stuff. I have a credit card. It attaches to PayPal. So all my business stuff goes there. And I would recommend that if you use PayPal a lot, the PayPal MasterCard is fantastic. I use that credit card and then I pay for my every month I pay for it. I do all my business expenses either on there or PayPal, and then I can pay for it out of my PayPal balance. So that makes it really nice and tidy because all that stuff is in and out of PayPal. So you can check your PayPal. You can Google how to check your recurring payments, but I have a couple recurring payments and they did not show up the way they're supposed to in PayPal. So I'm not sure what's wrong there, but you can just look. I mean, you could go look for recurring things. I think that's important to start with those recurring costs. And you can check for those in PayPal. There is a way they should show up under, and I'm not going to tell you how. I Googled it and then it didn't work. I found 3 ways. So I'm just going to tell you to Google it. Maybe I'll leave a link in the show notes, but I mean, we all can Google. Find out what's recurring there. If you have a credit card you're using, find out what's recurring there. So checking your bank as well. So bank, PayPal, credit card, if you're using something to do recurring payments through Venmo, like whatever things you're using to pay for stuff, check those. Look for recurring first. See what's coming out every month or annually. And sometimes I miss those because I forget like, oh, I'm just paying once a year for lead pages. And that once a year is like $300. So it's significant. So look for the annual ones as well. List out, and this is where I found some of the ones I'd forgotten about or didn't see on the recurring bits. List out all of the paid tools that you use. And some of them you may be surprised are recurring. So I use some like Pop-Up Ally Pro, which I love, but I think I'm going to stop using. And I'll talk about why down below as we keep going. And I say down below, I'm looking at my show notes as I talk. So further on down in the episode, we're going to talk about that. But one of the things is it's a one-time fee, but then you pay every year kind of like a recurring $20 or $30. It's not a lot, but you're still paying for it. And I actually like plugins and tools that do that because some of the ones that are like a one-time fee, the developers stop doing stuff. Like they stop supporting whatever it is that they built. So that fee I think is very reasonable for software to charge because that means they're doing all that upkeep on the back end when you have like updates to the plugin and things like that. So that's one where I'm paying, like I paid for it once, but then every year I pay like a little fee. So I had a lot of things that I had forgotten about that, also checking my inbox, I found emails from companies and I was like, why am I getting this email? And I checked and it was because I'm paying them something. Look at membership sites or things like that you might be in. And then also, so those are all recurring things. Like that's a great place to start because you're doing that every month. But then I also think it's really good to look at what you're spending your money on every month. And that's maybe more of like a bigger thing. We're going to mostly focus on the recurring because I think it's kind of a whole different ball game when you're talking about your every month expenditures that might fluctuate between the months. It's a lot easier to cut down on those recurring things. And since that's super actionable, that's what I'm looking at. But if you're really wanting to get serious with this, go look at what you spent last month, and take some separate time to be like, why did I pay for this? Did I need to pay for this? So that's like non-recurring stuff. So when we're looking at those recurring things, you're going to make a big list. I don't care if you do it on your computer or you skywrite it, put it on your wall or type it out in Google Docs or a spreadsheet. Get a big list of all those things that you're paying for and then try to nail down what you're actually paying. And it's good to level the playing field. So I really like to look monthly at this. But you could do it annually too. So like add it up and look at it annually because some of the things you may pay for annually, but either way, however you're paying for them, break it down in a way that on the sheet that you're looking at or your wall or whatever you're writing on, that's all the same, right? So you're looking at everything as a monthly or everything as the annual so you can see what those costs are. Because sometimes I'm a little surprised because $9 a month doesn't sound like a lot. But then when you compare that to something you're paying for annually, you're like, oh, maybe this isn't worth what I thought, or maybe this is really cheap and I had no idea. So list it out, and that's really important, and level the playing field. And then there are a number of questions I want you to ask. Now, some of them you may want to cut right off the bat. So like, this is not a business expense, but I was just going through in my head the recurring things I pay for. And I realized that I've been paying for pet insurance for Vader, our Great Dane, for this past year, even though it's through Banfield Pet Hospital, which is inside of PetSmart. And I highly recommend it for the very first year you have a puppy because they have to get shots like every hour. And it actually is worth it. But after the first year, it is not worth it. And I forgot to cancel it last year. So I paid for it all this year. And I have to cancel it this month. So I am actually doing that. But that was not a business expense, but that was just a recurring thing. So you might see some things right off the bat that you're like, yeah, no, that's got to go. Once you get past the like immediate hard no, I'm not paying for this again, here are some questions for you. So a good one to start with is, does it bring in money? And that doesn't mean, I'm not saying if it doesn't, you should cut it off. These are just questions to ask about these things. So let me go through them and then I'll kind of give you the more like, how do I make a choice now? Does it bring in money? Does it save me time? And let's get Marie Kondo on this. Does it bring me joy? Because there are some things that I pay for every month that are just because I like them, and that's okay. And I'm not cutting them. Try and make me cut them. I won't cut them. They bring me joy. Can I do without it? And that's a really good question to ask when you are at that point where you're bootstrapping or you're hitting a hard time or you have some big expenses that you know are coming up. Another is, do I have a tool that does the same thing? So at one point in time, I was paying for both Board Booster and Tailwind, which are both Pinterest scheduling apps. I was also using neither. So I was paying for these things. And again, this is where they get you. It's with those little tiny expenses. They're both like, $9 to $15 a month. And so I kind of just didn't notice. So do you have two tools that are doing the same thing? And do you need both? That's a great thing to ask. And then when is the last time I used it? That's an important question as well, because I have a couple things I've just hung on to. And then I looked and I was like, I'm hanging on to this, but I have not used it in 6 months. So that goes back to Pop-Up Ally Pro. I took down all the pop-ups, and they do more than pop-ups. I actually got the tool because it has 12 different places you can embed email signups on your site. And that's amazing. So it's not just pop-ups, it's all kinds of different tools. It's very sophisticated, very customizable. I really do like it. But I took down everything from my site and was really not as focused on email growth in the same way that I was, and didn't want to optimize my site in the same way. So I took everything off and then didn't put it back on, and then I haven't really missed it. And so I'm going to look back because I am kind of redoing some of the things on my sites, but I probably won't use it because I haven't used it in at least 6 months. Another one of those is Tailwind. So I did get rid of Board Booster. I do recommend Tailwind. If you want to schedule to Instagram and Pinterest, it is the best tool, I would say. Absolutely. There are so many options with it. I am an affiliate for it. So if it is one, like if you're knowing you're going to up your Pinterest and Instagram game, absolutely Tailwind. It has stats and analytics galore. See, here you hear me talking about, I love this tool. You can get it at creativewriting.com/Tailwind. That is my affiliate link, or you can just go to Tailwind and find it. I think it's Tailwind app. But I don't use it. I have not used it in 6 months. So that's one I'm on the fence about, because it is a tool that I just love, but I also am not using it. So I have to kind of decide. So if the question is no, I haven't used it in 6 months, then maybe you need to think about, okay, I need to make a plan to use it. And I'm going to kind of circle back to that. So all of these questions, you don't have to have something that brings in money. Maybe it brings you joy, or maybe it doesn't directly bring in money, but it saves you time. Or maybe you can't do without it. So some of these things, like when you answer the questions, it's not an automatic, okay, delete it if it doesn't make you money. But those are the things you need to think about, and you may want to think about all of them. So if you can't measure what it's bringing you, if you haven't used it in a while, if you don't plan to use it again, like if it's not part of your goals for 2019, cut it out, even if it's just $4 a month. So I have something I'm paying for right now that I've been on the fence about. It's a kind of membership, and it's only $4 a month, and it's with a couple experts, and they have these great videos. But I've been a member for 3 months and have not once watched a video. So I think that's one I'm like, yeah, it's only $4, but I'm not doing it. And I don't need to do it. So that's one. It's cheap, but those things start to add up over time. That's just one coffee. I could get like, or maybe half a coffee at Starbucks with $4. But anyway, you want to just look at those things and cut them out if you are not using them, if there's no joy, if you're not planning to use it this year and there's no ROI coming in, say goodbye. And I'm not a Marie Kondo person. If you could look at my office, you might die, because I'm staring out at a mattress, some jars of mead my husband made, a dismantled cuckoo clock, a couple of half-finished paintings, lampshades, a donut pillow, a bunch of board games. Needless to say, my office is a wreck. I am not a tidy person, I guess you could say. But I think it is important to ask, if it doesn't bring you joy in this, get it out. And I have felt that for sure in my business stuff, as I have been saying, nope, cancel my recurring payment, cancel my recurring payment. Nope, I don't want it again. It's been lovely, especially some of the big ones. Some of the ones I'm not paying for anymore, lead pages. I've shifted the way I'm doing my business now and where my main income stream comes from. And I don't need lead pages anymore. I just don't. It's a great tool. Again, a lot of the reason I've kept some of these around is they're great tools. Now, this is going to mean I have to go through my entire website and find all the places that I use lead pages and cut them out. So if there's a tip on how to do that easily, tell me, so I can do that. But that was like $300 a year. And then Vimeo Pro, because I was doing the Profitable Blogging Summit. We did that for 2 years, and we had the videos up on Vimeo Pro because they're more protected than just on YouTube Unlisted, where people can just share them. And that was $200 a year. So, we're not running the summit anymore. It's a great summit, but we can now, I feel less like crazy about moving all those videos unlisted to YouTube. And so that's what we're going to do, and still host, everything, but that's a lot of work. I might hire a VA to do that because I just don't feel like it. But I also don't want to pay $200 a year. But then I'm like, well, is it worth it to pay a VA $200? But if I'm paying it one time, see, these are the questions you ask yourself, or I ask myself. So anyway, here are a couple things though, where I would maybe suggest keeping a tool where you're like, okay, I'm not using it. It's not making any money for me. I don't know if I'm planning to use it. So if it's like one of those things you're on the fence about, if you have upcoming goals and you will use it. So I need to think about with Tailwind, I'm going back to that one. Am I going to, use Pinterest the same way that I used to? If I am, then I need to keep it, because Tailwind is really absolutely useful. It's a great tool. So if I have upcoming goals that have to do with that app and I haven't used it, then I'm going to keep it. Another big one is think about the price. Sometimes these tools, when you are locked in at one price and you leave and then you come back, the price has gone up. So I would recommend, if it's a tool that you're kind of on the fence about, check to see what the current price is. And if you leave, are you going to have to up that price, and is it worth it? Because I've had that happen a couple times, and I can't now think of an example, but I just know the crushing disappointment where I was like, but when I left, it was $8. Now it's 13. And 13 a month. I wouldn't cry about something just being $13, but 13 a month is different than 8 a month. It's a couple more dollars, 5. I do math sometimes. So you want to look at those prices. Have they gone up, and are you locked into a lifetime price? Because sometimes that means, okay, I'm going to keep this. So those are kind of the basic things that I have about this. And I want to end with this. Whatever you keep, make a plan to use it. Consider your goals, write them out, think about, okay, where in my week am I going to use this app? Where in my week am I going to use this plugin? When am I going to use this thing that's on my blog that I've paid for and I'm paying for every month? Am I actually going to use it? If you are keeping it, make a plan to use it. Simple, right? Not so hard. Not so hard. I don't like the money stuff, but this isn't so bad. Right? We can all handle this. So I hope that this episode will help encourage you to go out, find especially those sneaky recurring payments, even of the $4 variety, and cut them so that you can feel more free, spend less money on places you don't need it, so that you can divert it to things that are making you money, or just save it. That's cool too. So that's it for episode 147. I felt like I should have like an epic, it's a new year kind of episode, and I kind of roll into January with kids out of school and always feeling like I'm a little behind. And so this is what you get, but this is a great organizational thing to start your year. I don't know. I should have had a really good tagline there. That would have been a good place for that. Don't have one, but I do hope this gives you some clarity and some peace. It's been helpful for me. I'm going to be back every week, at least for a while. My business goals have changed, as I mentioned, and I may have an episode that kind of is just a summary of 2018 and looking forward to 2019. I wasn't ready this week, y'all, but I wanted to come back. But I will be coming on Fridays, even though my goals have changed. So we'll see how this goes. The focus of my business has completely changed over the past year, and I'll talk about that some. Maybe I'll do that next week because that would be fun to kind of, I think even for me, just to talk it through with myself or with you because you're listening. But I will be back. I'll have the quick fix every Friday, which is my weekly email with tips, resources, and tools for creatives just like you. And you don't want to miss that. So go to creativewriting.com/quick fix to get signed up. And if you want to join our awesome free community on Facebook, you can go to creativewriting.com/community to find us. I usually only add people like once a week. So if you request to join and you don't get an immediate response from me, it's just because sometimes it's easier to just go bulk at everybody. And so, because I do have questions to ask and I like to look at those. And maybe that's something I'll cut down is asking those so I can just do it faster. In any case, I'm going to stop talking to myself now about things I need to do this upcoming week, such as update things in the Facebook group. But I would love to have you in there. I would love to hear from you. You can find me on Twitter at KikiMojo. I'm barely there, but I am there. Or you can just send me an email if you want to talk or tell me about the podcast and upcoming things you'd like to hear. You can email me at kirsten@kirstenoliphant.com. Now go out, create things you love, and serve your people well.